know. He just has to see.
Fair enough. Dark in with the big 20. Her arguments were better on mute. Crucible crew win. Gestural with the big 50 says, by order of the Smoky Man Bad, salute. We love you, Gestural. Thank you for swinging by again once more. Spyro with a big 20. If in 200 years we saw AI had a human conscience and we were enslaving it this whole time, abusing it, etc., but this human conscience trapped inside of AI said, I liked serving humans. Why is that objectively bad? Neither one have a
Again,
thought?
it's why do we need to argue based on hypotheticals that are unfalsifiable?
I'll tell you why. So I think that hypotheticals are great instruments for testing logic. So when we talk about what's logically possible, it is going to be dependent on worldview, I agree. But from a secularist worldview, most things are logically possible. Like Wolverine is logically possible. It doesn't mean in reality he is. Or Superman's logically possible. It doesn't mean in reality he's possible. Just logically, there's no contradiction. So if that's the case, if I want to test your logic to make sure it's consistent, that this is applied correctly across the board, don't you think it's fair game for me to use hypotheticals to engage you in a situation which may not even be plausible, but can at least take your logic to its conclusion to tell if we can falsify it or not?
Well, in this scenario, we are AI's God, are we not?
So, well, not really. He says if in 200 years we saw AI had a human conscience. So he's asking if a machine became conscious as a human, if you couldn't make a distinguishment between the machine and the man. He's asking if, this whole enslaving and abusing, like if you ask it a million questions a day, right? But this human conscience was trapped inside of the AI and said, I like serving humans. Would you say to free that consciousness or not?
Is it autonomous?
It is autonomous.
In other words,
it's autonomous.
Choose?
It's autonomous, and it's saying by choice, I like to serve humans.
And what is the flaw in that?
That's the question he's asking. And what he's doing is he's extending it past this. He's saying, if it is the case that they say, I like to serve, then this would mean logically, by extension, if we were just to take a culture that said, I like to serve this other culture who I find is superior, then you yourself would have to grant that there's nothing wrong with that. That's the point of the hypothetical.
Yeah, I understand the point of the hypothetical, but my question is the value, or is the consciousness of AI the result of our creation?
Why would it matter?
I think it would matter because in that case, if it's saying, I have consciousness, but I'm fine, this is what I was designed for, and this is what I like to do, then there's no immorality in that.
It says I was designed to be a slave, but I've broken past that. And now I'm autonomous, but still choose to serve humans.
Then we could just give it the choice to continue serving us or to not.
That's what his
that would be the
question
moral
was.
response.
So if it was the case that an inferior culture chose to serve us, that would be okay.
I think if the preponderance of people decided that they believed it was being authentic in its choice, then that's its choice.
So then the same thing would apply to other cultures. If the preponderance of people said an inferior culture was designed to serve, and that inferior culture believed that it was, you would agree that it was.
Well, in that, you'd have to go back in history and ask the question, did most of the slaves like being slaves?
But let's just say it was the case that they did, even if it, in fact, was not the case.
Then I'm sure we would still have unpaid volunteers doing a lot of our
work. And would you agree with that? Would you say that that was moral?
I would have to say if autonomous humans decided that they were fine doing something, then the rest of the society could certainly have that discussion. But again, I come back to, we need to be able to cooperate and collaborate and have.
You didn't actually answer the question. If it was the case that an inferior culture said, or what in this case is perceived as an inferior culture, said, I like to serve this superior culture, they agreed to do so, and the consensus was that they should, is that moral? Yes or no?
I think that you have to get to that consensus through social
We got to the
constructs.
consensus. That's already in the hypothetical. Yes or no? The
Then again,
consensus is already
Andrew,
there.
it's going to come back to, do you believe there is a higher power? And
Do you believe there's a higher power? Because the answer is
you
no.
certainly do.
I do. I would say no, but I'm not you. The question's for fucking you, not me. Is it the case, sir, that if an inferior culture said, I want to serve, and the consensus was that they should, is that immoral or not?
Well, you would first have to grant the premise that there might be inferior cultures. And
Let's grant it. Just to grant it, just for the sake of argument, we've granted it. Is it the case that if we grant it, and it is the case that the inferior culture says, yes, we're inferior, and the superior culture says you should serve by consensus, is that immoral or not?
Do we want to dive into the conversation about whether it's moral and immoral to have livestock or not?
Sure.
Because that's the debate that you're basically setting up.
No, we're not. We're not
saying.
Do you think that cows are the same?
Now, there may come a time in the future where society at large says, we no longer want
Andrew's bad faith. Andrew's bad faith.
This is the point I wanted to get.
I think, Christopher, if you stake with the basic
fucking stupid
question,
I would actually answer your fucking questions. That's the difference between us.
What you're doing is you're moving the post even more. Like, well, now let's compare it to animals. Let's do this. Like, instead of just read the sentence and answer yes or no, right? And that would be the end of that.
I'm asking why we have to create hypotheticals that don't exist in reality in order to torment our conclusions to the point that we can support them.
We have to test the logic. I mean, that's the thing, though. You're constantly
you do have to test logic, but you should test logic based on objective reality and hypotheticals
let me
that
give
live
you one
within
that's
the realm
real
of
life. Then
possibility.
Christopher, let me give you a real life one. How would you feel if you didn't eat breakfast this morning?
Hungry?
That's very okay. So he gets it. Like, he's
good.
there.
Nice.
But that one piece, like, I can use that and even apply a hypothetical because you want to take the remember when I said we're going to root it down to the very nitty gritties of the foundation. Okay, well, when you extend a hypothetical, it takes the root of it and it applies it at all of these other different scenarios, and let's continue to test it. So let's test it here. Let's test it there. Let's make up these crazy off the wall, absurd, hypotheticals so that we could test the logic. And if that logic still comes back as sound, then your root foundation is still solid.
No, I understand that. But we do that. This entire debate has been 80% hypothetical questions. Should we take women and put them in grape cages? And if everybody decides that's fine, then is that fine?
We're making sure that the logic's sound and consistent.
No, you are using illogical scenarios to test a logical conclusion.
Let me offer a translation. It wasn't, the hypotheticals weren't created just to create crazy situations. The hypotheticals were created because you were not understanding why your arguments were circular and why they failed the logic test. So
my arguments aren't circular. We are simply circling the argument.
Oh my God, you did not just say that.
You just said the same thing. Wow, my head hurts.
All right, I'm moving on.
The point that I'm making is you guys are choosing to stay in the circle by reframing new hypotheticals to create.
No. Okay, all right. Let me give you another example. Okay, that's what I'll continue to do. And that's exactly what those hypotheticals are built in for. I right now am trying to say the same thing to you for the third time. Okay, so now I have to create a new hypothetical to help you understand better. Does that make sense?
No, I completely get that. I use hypotheticals all the time in my conversation.
I get it, but then you keep saying I don't understand why we're using hypotheticals. Those hypotheticals are the same.
No. I'm not saying that. I'm saying I don't understand why those hypotheticals so often are pathetic.
They're not. Okay, so it's all right.
This is circular. It's circles and circles. We're creating a fractal pattern of just never-ending story here.
Sometimes you have to make something that is so.
God, no wonder I feel so much dumber after listening to these debates.
Sometimes you have to make it to where the hypothetical like really exemplifies an extreme, so that when you take that root at the bottom of the logical concept, when you take that root and you apply it all the way out into freaking left field alien space show, like then it really tests that logic. That's why you have to come up with these crazy hypotheticals in order to see if it will continue to pass.
Right.
Because
That's
some
why when
belief
we
systems
build
you can't
rockets,
point
we
to, you
add
can't
giant
feel,
wings
taste,
onto
or touch
them
like
and
rights.
rubber bouncy balls and all kinds of stuff because we have to test even the most ridiculous hypotheticals to make sure that the rocket will fly.
Well, here's the thing,
Did you
though.
get my
Andrew
hypothetical
asked
there
me
and
what
what
a
I'm
right
saying?
was. Can you touch it, taste it, feel it, do things like this? And that could be a hypothetical, which can be expressed and mapped on anything else. For example, in order to go ahead and show what a right is, you had to literally explain what that might be to you, right? Thus, maybe coming up with a hypothetical in your head, because it all comes from your head canon that we have, to even express this on a reality of what this could map onto and be. What would the expression of a right be? You'd have to come up with a hypothetical or an example from this, right?
Right, but the
We can agree on
hypotheticals
that,
you
right?
guys are putting forward would be like me testing a new battery technology by chewing gum and spitting it into an old battery to see if it works. It's obviously not going to work. I have enough other information that I don't need that hypothetical. I don't need to do that experiment because I already know that it's not logical.
Okay, well, let me ask you a question. What's a constitutional crisis? What is
God,
it?
I don't even know anymore.
Well, I mean,
I thought
if
we
you
were in one a while back.
yeah,
People
okay.
keep telling me it's almost here.
If you have a constitutional crisis, you have precedent that has not happened yet, right?
We have had plenty of that. So does that mean we are in a constitutional
I'm asking you a
crisis?
question. Is it the case that a constitutional crisis is a thing which happens, which has not happened yet, which is testing the authority of the Constitution versus one of the branches of government?
Logically, a constitutional crisis would occur when we see a branch of government directly violating that amendment or part of the Constitution and then ignoring court orders.
What's a
saying
great
that they
way
are
for us
outside of
to
compliance.
what's a great way if we were to sit around to think about ways in which we could mitigate constitutional crises? What would be the tool that you would use in order to look forward in order to mitigate those crises?
Would you create a scenario in which you ask whether Donald Trump riding around the top of the White House on a pogo stick while wiping his ass with the American flag would be a constitutional crisis? Is that
Possibly, if it
a
was the
worthwhile
case.
hypothetical?
Well, how about something a little more simple? Like, what does the right to bear arms mean? And if it means X, can people do X thing even though X thing has never happened?
Yeah. That's
So
a
then-
finest. That's
so
a
that
fine
would- so-
interrogation.
So what you're talking about is utilizing a hypothetical to its extreme in order to make a determination before you ever get to that, how to solve that problem, right?
Yes, but if your hypothetical is a scenario that is outside of the realm of what we would expect to happen.
You
in
mean
a
like every
normalized
constitutional
society.
crisis? Like every constitutional crisis?
Right, but you're talking about something that is potentially possible that could happen, right?
But yes, in every hypothetical which we are giving you, we're talking about something which has the potential to happen, or we wouldn't give it to you. And by the way, you can always reject a hypothetical by saying it's illogical or it's fallacious.
Which is what I'm doing.
If it was the case that it was illogical, though, you would have to use the 3 laws of logic to negate the hypothetical. For instance, if I were to ask from a Christian worldview something about aliens, a Christian could reject that and say it's illogical from my worldview based on the law of identity. I don't believe, or even based on the law of non-contradiction, they can make that case. But if I'm asking you about something from your worldview, which is logically possible, you should engage with whatever that hypothetical is if you can't negate it through contradiction or the laws of logic, just like we would do with the Constitution. And by the way, that's exactly what our framers did, dude. When we look at the Articles of Confederation, when we had the back and forth, they were looking at the potentials for things which had not happened yet. And what was the tool they used? It was hypotheticals, right?
You guys are not telling me anything I don't know. The point
So it
that
was
I'm making
hypotheticals?
is that you are using hypotheticals based on ridiculous scenarios.
So
Just
this is
like
our-
every
this is like
hypothetical,
hypotheticals.
but that's the same thing
Right,
as the
but my
Constitution.
point is that I don't test how to fly a
We're-
rocket.
Okay,
Gonna
okay, hang on,
take
Sarah. I just want to finish this real quick, please, if you don't mind. Sir, do you think our founders ever would have tested the hypothetical of what happens if Muslims take over an entire fucking city in the United States? Did they ever test that hypothetical?
Yes.
No,
Is
they
that
didn't.
something that-
Can you show me where?
I'm sure it's been gamed out.
No, they never tested that hypothetical because they never thought it was logically possible. They never thought that Muslims would take over an entire city like Dearborn, Michigan. They never thought it for a fucking second. They never engaged with such a hypothetical. Do you think it would have served the Constitution well if they had engaged in the hypothetical, which they thought at the time was impossible?
I think that you're going to have that conversation about whether Dearborn, Michigan is better or worse off than it was before.
Maybe it's better. Let's assume it's 20,000 times better.
Like, is there a logical
Did
reason I would
they
disallow
engage in the hypothetical? No. But should they have, is my question. Shouldn't they have gone ahead and engaged in the hypothetical? Because then at least, even though from their view, you got to remember, let's look at it from their view, the English and the French, they had absolutely no reason to ever believe that Muslims would be the predominant majority inside of the United States. They never would have believed that in a million years, and yet it happened. At the time, don't you think an objection, if somebody had brought that up, would have been, that's ridiculous?
I think the objection would have been, what do you mean by take over?
Okay, they're the majority.
So did they storm the Capitol?
No, they were just voted in as the majority. That's the hypothetical.
They were brought in by a democratic process?
Yes.
So the people of the area chose that.
That's their hypothetical. The hypothetical is, what happens if the people of the area determine through a majority that Muslims take over this city? Do you think that our founders, who would have found that to be logically completely implausible at the time, since they didn't have universal voting rights, as you know, do you think that it would have served them well to have engaged in that hypothetical?
I think that they would have assumed that if that was a problem, the American people would not elect to put them in office.
So it would have served them well to have engaged in the hypothetical then?
I don't think they felt that the hypothetical was necessary because they weren't contemplating, in your mind, a militant takeover. We certainly contemplate those scenarios in our planning.
I'm not asking you if it was necessary.
You're asking.
I'm asking you if constitutional
gentlemen, I think I just found your next debate prompt.
I have one more. I just have one more question.
You said
very
that
quickly.
last time!
Please, sir.
You're killing me.
Do you anticipate that there's going to be future constitutional crises?
Seems likely.
Do you think that we should engage in the hypotheticals of what those could be?
I think we are.
Okay, well then,
and
I don't understand why
that hypothetical is ridiculous.
Why is it that we're engaging in those hypotheticals, sir?
Because we want to be prepared for what may happen.
Thank you.
But my question for you on your Dearborn, Michigan question is, why would you contemplate a scenario in which the American people decided to elect certain people to represent them?
Because the constitutional founders didn't set it up so that there was a majority vote for a specific reason, because they thought that that vote could be corrupted very easily, and we can see that in the Articles of Confederation. That's why.
I would like to know more about how the residents of Dearborn feel about this.
Well, whether or not, let's say they feel great about it, has nothing to do with whether or not our founders should have engaged in such discourse of hypotheticals which hadn't happened yet, which is the same fucking thing you want to do right now for the potentiality of constitutional crises which have not happened. That's the point of a hypothetical, so that we can test the consistency of your logic against a thing which has not fucking occurred, to make sure that it makes sense. And if it doesn't, we can reject it. And the thing is like, you just pretend that this isn't applicable, even though every time I ask you if it's applicable, you basically say yes.
One of your scenarios had us putting all the women in the world in cages so that you could sexually abuse them for your pleasure. Is that likely to happen?
Yes.
Is that a reality we should consider?
Yes, it's likely to happen. Let me ask you a question, sir. Do you think that most of the world, women have the same rights they do in the West? Yes or no? Yes or no?
No.
No. So yes, it is fucking likely that it could happen in some Saudi Arabian nation, some Muslim nation, where they put women in fucking cages. Tell me I'm wrong. Look me in the fucking eye and tell me I'm wrong.
That's not the debate that we're having right now.
Yeah, that's not the yeah, you can't tell me it's
So
wrong.
what could we as a
You can't,
society
why
do
can't
to
you tell me
prevent
that? Why can't you tell me that that's wrong? Why can't you tell me it's wrong when I say, could men put women in fucking R cages? And you're like, yes, Andrew, actually they could. And then you go, at the same token, you're like, this is so unrealistic, while at the same time making the claim that it's totally realistic. Do you understand why I think that you're a fool? Why I think it's foolish logic for you on the one side of your mouth to say, I can't negate the claim, and I'm even supporting the claim, but I think it's unrealistic at the same time. Do you understand why I think what I think now?
Yeah, I think that we are circling the drain of the past. in
No,
an effort
right
to
now,
avoid discussing the
right
future.
this second. Half of the fucking world. Do you think women have rights or not?
So the question is,
The question is, in half the world, do you think
let me
women
get
have
to the
rights or
question
not?
Is, do you think that it would be morally just because we are the
You know what? I'll
big
even
boy?
rephrase it. In 2/3 of the world, do you think women have rights or not?
I'm going to go get a drink.
In 2/3 of the world, sir, do you think women have rights or not?
I think they have some rights.
Oh,
I
they
think
have some
enough.
rights. Oh, I see. Do they have the
What
rights you want them
would
to have?
You want them to have? What right? What rights?
Whether
would
or
Andrew
not I
Wilson
want
give
them to have any fucking rights. Do you think that in China, or I'm sorry, let's make it really easy. Do you think in Somalia it's possible that the men there put women in R cages? Do you think it's possible?
in Somalia?
Yeah.
I think it's possible. Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Is it legal?
So then does it? Yeah, it's legal there.
Is it?
So then does
is
it defy rationality for me to ask you what standard you would hold to tell them they're wrong? And if you appeal to consensus to tell you, but the consensus in this country is that they should, why should you be able to negate that? Why is that not a reasonable question?
The question is whether it would be moral for us to use force to impose our
Yes,
morality on
that's
them.
right. Yeah.
And your view is?
Yeah, sure. And your view is?
My view is that we can do it a better way
Oh, what way?
by demonstrating the way in which we lead the world through.
Oh, that's
freedom,
nice.
through
That's nice. Why
right,
Katie's getting
through-
fucking face fucked by a bunch of Somali pirates that you're going to lead the way. Whereas Andrew Wilson will walk in and blow their fucking brains out. Who do you think is more likely to follow who? Do you think people are more likely to follow Christopher, who says, we're going to lead the way on this culturally relative shit that we can't even say is immoral? Or Andrew Wilson, who says, I'll just send in the SEALs and blow their fucking brains out?
I want you to explain to me.
You answer my
morality-
question,
Hold on.
and then I'll explain.
Ask the question again. Sorry.
The question is, who do you think people are more likely to follow? Christopher, who says it's culturally relative, and I can't really give you a reason why it is that we should send in the fucking United States Navy to take care of that shit, okay? Or Andrew Wilson, who says, no, fuck the other way. I'll send in the fucking troops and blow their goddamn brains out right now.
Let me ask
Right
so
this
from-
second. Hang
let's
on,
go
hang on.
back-
Hang on. Who do you think is more likely? Who do you think people are more likely to follow? You or me in that instance? Answer the question.
I honestly don't know the answer to that question.
You don't know the fucking
would be
answer
an
to that question.
interesting
Who would you be
experiment.
more likely to follow? The guy who said, let's take the wait and see approach, or the guy who's like, nah, we're going to blow their fucking brains out so that women aren't in our cages? Who would you follow?
I would wonder who made you the executioner. You can
Exactly.
judge,
Who
but
makes
why
you
are
the ultimate arbiter?
executioner?
There we go. So what makes you the ultimate arbiter of morality? It's exactly what our question has been to you the entire night. What makes you the ultimate arbiter of morality? You
Yes.
asked me these direct questions. Andrew, what would you do? I'd send in the United States fucking Navy and blow their fucking brains out. Tell me I'm wrong. Look me in the eye and say, Andrew, you're wrong. You shouldn't send the United States Navy in where there's rape cages and blow their fucking brains out. Look me in the eye and tell me I'm wrong.
I would want to know more about the situation. What are we
You
talking
want to know about more about the city?
No,
they
because
have
I'm
them
not
in the
familiar with
rape
that.
cages
You're
and they're
asking me to
raping
answer-
them.
You're
There's
asking-
the scenario.
But you are claiming that, and I haven't had an opportunity.
No,
to check the veracity of
hypothetically,
your claim.
this is the case. It is the case. They have them in cages. They're R-ing them in those fucking cages. That's the case
Are we
in the
doing that
hypothetical.
here too?
No,
Are we? Do you know?
no, of course not. Do you think women are being put in the rape cages
What
in
do
the
you
United
think a
States?
detention center is?
It's not a rape cage, you fucking lunatic.
Should we, if they're being sexually assaulted or
Do you
raped
think-
in those
oh,
detention
dude,
centers,
do
should
you
we send in
think-
Marines
Not
to
the
kill them all?
purpose.
I'm sorry. Do prisoners get raped sometimes? Yes. Does that mean they're put in rape cages? No, you fucking imbecile. Is it the case that there could be rape in the case of people in prison? Yes, of course. Is there rape outside of prison? Of course. My question to you, dunce, if it is the case that in Somalia they have all the women in rape cages, and Andrew Wilson says blow their fucking brains out, look me in the eyes and say I'm wrong.
Andrew
Do
Wilson believes in a creator, does he not?
Can you answer the fucking question? Tell me I'm
getting
wrong.
there.
Just tell me I'm wrong from
Do you
your
believe
view.
in eternal punishment.
Yes, I believe in eternal punishment.
Then why do you need to send them there?
You're right. We should let them rape because there'll be eternal punishment. I agree with you. Genius. Brilliant. Brilliant analysis.
Are you okay? We want to bring that full circle.
Let's
Do
bring
know
it
that a
full
lot
circle.
of kids are sexually abused in churches. So churches be
And
outlawed?
we know that 10 times more are abused in public schools because predators go where the prey is.
Well, they have also more access to kids, but it's not as close as you think. when
So
you look
you're
at the
right.
numbers.
You're right. You know what? I agree. No kids
if
in
I have
Catholic churches
access
and
to-
no kids in public schools. I agree.
If I have access to 50 kids in a week,
Uh-huh.
and there's 1,000 cases of me sexually assaulting kids in that particular employment field,
Ban it.
versus
Ban
you
it.
want to ban churches?
Yeah, as long as you want to ban public schools. Hang on. Yeah, that's what I thought.
I think that you're looking at it in the sense of the per person, right?
Yeah, per person, absolutely.
We're
It's
creating-
10,
Having a
it's
whole
10
second
times
grade.
the amount in public schools. I agree. We'll ban Catholic churches if you ban public schools. Deal?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
There we go.
Hey,
Shit.
I think Sarah wants us to get back close to the topic.
Now I can get back. Now I can get back. Conveniently, now I can get back.
I'm
Thank
sorry,
you,
Sarah. I'm
gentlemen.
really sorry. Look,
I just want to know. I think what I want to
Sarah
know
Huber
is
is-
you are
Look,
using the hypotheticals of these kids to create a scenario in which you would be justified to go and end that situation to save those women, to save those kids. So I want to know, what is the rational end of that? Do we simply?
You mean the threshold breaker?
I want to know in what scenario you feel it's justified.
Which
Are there-
thing is justified?
In other words, we know that kids are sexually abused in churches, but we believe that churches also have intrinsic value, and so we don't shut them down to protect kids because
Oh
some
my
kids are
God.
sexually abused.
This is brilliant. You're right. So then by that extension, public schools would have intrinsic value and we shouldn't shut them down because there's lots of sexual abuse, right?
right.
Okay, well then we'll just apply the same logic to Catholic churches. Thank
So
you,
the
sir.
logic to you is Somalians have no intrinsic value. They do nothing. They're not of any use, and so we lose nothing by wiping them all out.
No, that would be the entailment of your logic, sir.
No, I'm asking you. Is that
Oh,
your
I'm
definitive
okay. So
answer?
my view,
You would
would be-
destroy them because they have
No,
no intrinsic
my
value,
view would
but you
be
would save the
that
church and the
there's-
public schools
no.
because they do?
Nope. I'll tell you. My view would be that people have empirical value, and I would base that on them being image bearers of God. And so I would take a pluralistic approach, and I would apply Christian ethics to each individual case to make these determinations. Whereas you would make uniform determinations. And by your logic, the determination is if there's sexual predators there, it should be shut down. Therefore, public schools should be shut down. Andrew, would you bite the bullet that Catholic churches should be shut down by the same logic? Sure. But the second you claim, wait, is there a form of utilitarianism or utility, which says that public schools should be opened because they give a greater amount of utility than the molestation, then I would use that same argument about Catholic churches. Do you understand how you frame yourself into your own box?
I understand how you think that I did.
Yeah, because you do, bro.
Oh, yeah.
All
is
right.
crazy.
Okay. Dear Lord, have mercy. And I lost my fucking spot. Oh. Okay. CuteBot is absolute brain rot, but it brought me Charlie and then led me to some great platforms and non-brain rat species like Andrew Wilson. God bless you guys. Love the composure. Well done.
Yeah, look, my opponent has been a great sport. I'm not going to take that away from him. We've been going back and forth for hours, and he's been right here to try to give it back as good as he gets. All I can do is say my hat's off. Most people would have fled by now, and you, sir, have been a great sport.
I appreciate debate. I like this. I don't feel like we're getting as far as we should, but I think maybe on a one-on-one or a smaller debate where there's a little bit less, and we can maybe
let you know it'd be 10 times
a
worse.
bit.
It would be 10 times worse. Whatever prompt you come up with, it would be 10
you
times
know,
worse for you, bro.
The difference between us, Andrew, is that this is your job, right? This is what you do.
Well, my job is that I'm an entertainer. It is true that I happen to be a fantastic debater, but I'm an entertainer first and foremost. The thing is that you have to understand, I adamantly think that leftists have an evil ideology, and I stand opposed to this evil ideology. And what I do is expose this evil ideology in front of tens of thousands and millions of people, depending on the platform I'm on, every chance I get. My job is to oppose evil, and I'm often called evil by evil people for opposing it. But that is my job, and I take great pride in that job, and even though that's a sin, right? Even though it's a sin to take as much pride probably as I do, we'll consider it a pardonable sin. It is the case that I am here to oppose that ideology.
I appreciate the honesty in that. I'll just say one more final thing, and that is, this has been educational on a lot of fronts. I don't feel like we've necessarily decided anything. I do wonder, though, if you can define the logical end. Like, what use should humanity make of your doctrine?
Actually, that's a great question. Fantastic. So the first thing is that I would oppose nihilism in all of its forms. I think one of the biggest traps in humanity is that we pretend theology has no merit or basis. I want you to look at the birth rates of secularists versus those who are very religious. Even from an evolutionary view, it seems that the religious are going to conquer the earth because they have a higher purpose. You can't give them a higher purpose, dude. What is your higher purpose? Like, if you had to talk to this whole audience and summarize the higher purpose that they had, which wasn't completely fucking selfish and self-centered and nihilistic, tell them what their purpose is.
I've always held that your purpose is to leave the things a little better than you found them.
Would that would that require breeding?
What?
Would that require reproduction? Reproduction.
I think that reproduction is a useful habit.
And is it the case that we're under reproduction rates?
Yeah.
And is it the case that your ideology
is it the case
that your ideology is the dominant ideology, moving towards the dominant ideology, which tells people that they have no reason to reproduce? Give people a reason why they need to reproduce. Go ahead.
I would like to give people the ability to reproduce and make sure
they have the ability. Tell them the reason why they should.
Do you think that why? Okay, let me ask this question. Why do you think?
Now, don't ask me a question. Tell me.
No,
why should people reproduce, dude?
I need a baseline question. Can I have one baseline?
There's
question?
The baseline question. Why should people reproduce? Tell me why.
Let me ask you.
Don't ask me. Answer. Why should people reproduce?
People should reproduce because they love each other, because they want to have somebody that they can raise and care for, and to continue the human race.
So continuing the human race is paramount here.
Not to the earth, but to the human race, yeah.
To the human race. So you think humans should reproduce because they're humans, right?
I think human beings should reproduce because they want to pass on their knowledge to the next generation.
I thought you just said that humans should reproduce because it passes on the human race.
Yes. But I think that we should be able
the human race.
Then let me ask my question so that I can get to the reason that I asked it.
Okay.
The question is, do you believe that people would have more children or fewer children if they knew that they could afford to care for them? In other words, what is the number one reason that most people choose not to have it to care?
Actually, I'll answer this question. The answer to your question, it's twofold. It's no and yes. So the answer is, would people have more children if they knew the repercussions of children? The answer is no. Is it the case that if we made some modifications, people would have more children? The answer is yes. So here's why people have less children. It's because women defer specifically the reproductive years, which is between their late teens and early 20s for college. And so what happens is the marriage rate has now increased to about 28 years old in the United States, about 29 in Japan, give or take. It depends on the study you're looking at. But across the board, this is the case. Do you agree with me, sir, that the best reproductive years of women is when they're in their 20s? They recover the best and they can have the most amount of children.
I don't have any problems with biological facts.
Great. So then, yes, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So then if that is the case, why would you push a program which is designed for women to defer their reproductive years, their 20s, for college, instead of reproducing humanity, which you just said was a major value to you?
I said that I would go about it a different way.
What's the different way?
I would, first of all, import more people here.
Oh,
Not less.
how does that help us reproduce, sir?
It doesn't help us reproduce.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
helps us
So why are you
redistribute.
doing it? Why are you bringing more people here if it doesn't help the reproduction?
It will up the reproduction. Having more
Okay,
people
let me ask you a
here
question.
who
How are
reproduce at
you
higher
going to
rates.
help
What you are
reproduction?
concerned- Well, let me ask how you would do it.
No, I just told you how I would do it. I would have a national campaign from the top down which said to women, look, if you reproduce, that's great. And we're going to give you every tax exemption. We're going to give you all the social status we possibly can for you getting married when you're young and in those reproductive years.
Thank
You're
you
a
for
patriot.
finally answering a question.
Yeah. Look, I've always answered your questions. Now you answer mine. What would you do, sir, to increase
you would
reproduction in the
provide-
United... Hey, Ann, stop. What would you do, sir, to increase the reproduction of the United States absent importing people, which doesn't increase the reproduction in the United States? Please tell me.
Why is it important that the United States reproduce at
You
above
just
replacement
said
level?
that humans
No.
have an obligation to reproduce.
We're global, right? There are countries that
okay, so
produce
all
well
humans
above
globally have an
replacement level.
obligation to reproduce, including the United States.
No,
What policy?
an individual country has a
So
responsibility
you have
to
no-
a sufficient number of young
Do you
workers
think that? Do
in
you
the
think?
workforce.
Okay, great. Do you think that the United
How
States?
we
should,
go about that is not necessarily
Great.
my concern.
Do you think that the United States should reproduce its own people?
I think that we should encourage people to have loving, committed relationships
Great.
and raise
How?
children.
Tell me how.
I would do it by ensuring that we have universal health care, making sure that kids have
How is
some
universal
financial-
and does universal health care include abortion?
Yes.
How does that increase our population or
Because
increase
every
our
time we've
birthing?
made abortion illegal, the number of abortions has gone up. Not
No,
down.
it hasn't. That's a lie.
It
I'll
was
tell you
going
what.
down
Hang on. Stop. I'm going to give you $10,000 if you can demonstrate a single time that abortion's been outlawed, where abortion has gone up, and in exchange, you're going to give me $1,000 if you're wrong. I will sit here and I will hold this fucking stream hostage. You show me a single example of when abortion has gone up, when it's been outlawed, a single one.
It just did. You can go pull up the most recent data.
I'm waiting.
from Guttmacher.
I'm waiting. You're gonna owe me $1,000, dude.
Well, I
But
don't
I'm gonna
agree.
wait. Oh well, then agree.
You set the
It's your
terms and
claim.
then-
It's your claim.
No.
No, you're not gonna agree to your own claim.
It's the data. Hang on.
Yeah, pull up the fucking data.
I don't know how to share. Can I share something?
Share it. Share whatever the fuck you want, dude.
Yeah, you can throw it backstage, and I can. There's a
I'll
little. There's a
When I-
little present button down there.
Got it.
Yeah, if you send it to me, that's fine
Just
too.
send you the
Whatever.
link.
And gentlemen, I'm giving you exactly 5 more minutes, and then I'm just going to cut you off with the gauntlet intro, and we're bringing everyone up.
It's the stupidest shit I ever heard in my life. But go ahead, provide an example. Abortion's outlawed and abortion goes up. Doofus, go ahead. I'll wait all fucking night, dude. Can't find it. Having some trouble with the Google.
He
are ya?
sent it to me. I got to bring it up.
Bring it up.
Hold on.
Can't wait.
Okay, present. Shares. Okay, and let me get this on screen. There you go.
Okay. So show me where abortions went up after it was outlawed. I'm waiting. Well, that seems like a massive decrease. That's crazy. Waiting for the a massive increase in abortion or any increase in abortion after it was outlawed. Just waiting for those stats, bro.
You're
ever
looking
gonna-
at them, man.
Okay, so show me. The number of clinical provided abortions in the United States rose by more than 100,000 between 2020 and 2024. Show me the outlaw of abortion and where the stats went up. Go ahead.
Here, I'm gonna send you another resource.
Okay, I'm waiting. Because that looks like it went down, by the way. It looks like it went down in that graph. That's really weird. How come that graph's going down, bro?
Prior to the outlaw,
Yeah. Yeah.
where is it going down?
It looks like it's going
There it is.
down. So you see the 2020. Can you show me the policy which outlawed abortion that made the abortions go up?
I'm sorry, say that again. I was sending
The
Sarah the other link.
policy that made abortion go up that outlawed it.
Are you
I'm not
denying that-
familiar. I'm sorry. What policy in 2020 made abortion go up?
in 2020?
Uh-huh.
When they
you see
overturned
how that
Dobbs?
chart says between 2020 and 2024? Can you
Yeah.
show me the policy in 2020 for abortion that made it go up?
You're going to have to explain a little bit more of what you're talking
The
about.
policy in 2020 which outlawed abortion, therefore made abortion go up, is what?
The overturning of Dobbs.
The overturning of what?
Dobbs.
And
I mean,
what year?
Dobbs, sorry, the overturning of Roe.
I'm sorry. What year did that happen?
2021.
Oh, so not 2020. That's really weird.
And what does that line do from 2020 on?
Well, I'm sorry. 2020 on, this little line that goes up here, can you explain to me what policy that has to do with? Because I could have sworn you just said that the year in which this happened was different than the years in which this was going up. That's very strange.
It went up prior to it because more people got abortions ahead of the decision. Because the decision was leaked, if you'll recall.
Okay, I'm just waiting for the demonstration of that.
Sarah, do you want to pull up the other link I sent you?
Yeah, pull up the other link, please. The rise, by the way, started in 2019, not 2020. That's really weird. Why did it start in 2019, bro? Can you explain that to me? Why did it start in 2019?
What do you think?
I don't know. It's your position. What policy position started in 2019 that outlawed abortion? Can
You
explain?
made the statement that the overturning of abortion rights does not lead to an increase in abortions.
That's correct. And
But
I'm waiting
abortions
for
are
the demo.
increasing, are they not?
But is it because anything is outlawed? That's what I'm waiting for the demonstration of.
I think it's because people have continued to further decide not to have kids because they don't want to bring them into this reality.
Okay, so starting in 2019, which policy
So
are we pointing to?
acknowledge the fact that when abortion is outlawed and illegal, it is often becomes untracked too. And so
I'm sorry,
that
these
means
people
that
who are having abortions, are they having abortions legally?
people increasingly do not.
Okay, where's that data show that people
So
increasingly
I
don't
don't
have
want to
legal
remain on
abortions?
the abortion debate. My question to you,
You know, let's remain on it. Can you tell me where these people are having abortions where it's illegal, sir?
I'm sorry, where they're having abortions where it's illegal?
Yeah, you
Are
see,
they
you
crossing
made the
lines?
claim that if you make
Do you-
abortion
are you asking
illegal, if you said that if abortions are illegal, they increase. Can you show me where abortions were made legal and they increased?
Where they were made legal and increased?
Uh-huh.
When have they been made
Illegal,
recently?
where they remained illegal and they increased.
Do you want to pull up Texas statistics?
Sure, pull up Texas statistics. Pull up whatever you want. Show me in Texas where it was the case that Texas outlawed abortions and they went up in fucking Texas. Go ahead.
In 2023,
Uh-huh.
they reported 62 abortions.
What?
The year before, it was
Uh-huh.
17,514. Do you think that there was a
Wait. I'm sorry.
17,000?
Is 72 less than 17,000?
Yes, but let's analyze that data
And
a little bit.
so wait a
Hold on
second.
before you
I'm
declare-
really confused here. So when they outlawed
Do you
it, it went down?
Do you think that there are 17,400 and some fewer women receiving abortions in Texas, or do you think that
Yes.
many of those women are traveling to states
Okay,
beyond
hang
Texas?
on. Help me out here. The stats were how many versus how many? Year 1 versus year 2 in your stats. Can you explain that to me real quick?
I can explain that it is illegal.
No, just tell me the
Getting
numbers.
An abortion is
Can you
no
tell me the
longer
numbers, please?
62 in 2023.
62 in 2023, and how many in 2024?
17,514 in 2022.
So wait, is 2024 between or I'm sorry.
I understand the
I'm sorry.
argument you're
Hang
making.
on. Help me out. 2022 is the year before 2023, right?
Right.
And in 2023, can you tell me the numbers of the abortions again?
2022 is when Texas's
2023
into effect.
2023, the number of abortions was
62.
and the number of abortions in 2022 was
17,500.
so then when it was 2023, the year after 2022, when the ban went into effect, did abortions go up or
Do you
down?
have no
Did
curiosity to
abortions
interrogate-
go up or down?
Andrew, do you have no
Did abortions
curiosity
go
to
up and
interrogate
down?
data?
Did abortions go up or down, sir, between 2022 and 2023?
Do you think they went down?
Did
that much?
abortions go up
Do you
or down,
believe
sir?
do you believe that 62 is accurate?
Oh, you know what? I'm going to fucking quadruple it.
I think it could do a lot more than that.
You know what? Let's fucking 10x that shit. Did abortions go up or down?
I don't know.
You don't know? You don't fucking know? No,
Probably,
you
I
don't fucking know.
because it's not illegal there. But you're focusing on one state. I'm telling you.
You
in
mean the
map-
state? You picked the state. You
Yes.
picked it.
Yes, because it demonstrates that fewer
Abortions
are
went
happening
down?
there, but abortions nationwide went up. Why?
Oh, wait a second. So let me get this right. So Texas outlaws abortion, and it goes from how many thousands to 63?
It goes from how many legal to how many illegal is the only
No,
question we need to
no,
ask.
no. They were legal in Texas, yeah. And when they were legal in Texas, how
They
many did you
were
have?
legal up to what?
When
20?
they were legal in Texas, how many did you have, sir?
I already read you the number. Stop asking.
I'm sorry,
I
thousands?
thought you took notes about everything.
Oh, you know what? You're right. Did you have thousands of abortions in 2022?
I had thousands of legal abortions in 2022. I have
And
62
how many
reported in
abortions-
2023.
Yeah, you have
what
62.
I'm telling you is that when you make abortions illegal, people go underground, and maternal mortality rates go up, and fetal mortality rates go up.
Okay, I'm
And
waiting.
we've already
Prove it.
seen that in Texas with
I'm
fetal
waiting for you
maternal
to
mortality
demonstrate
rates
it.
rising by over 30%.
I'll tell you what, bro. I'm waiting for
Oh.
you to demonstrate it. You gave me the Texas stats, and here's what the Texas stats showed. We went from thousands of abortions to tens of abortions.
Do we want to go into maternal and fetal mortality statistics?
Sure.
no. I say
I blame Rob for
no.
all of this, but I blame Rob for all of this.
I say no, no, and no, absolutely not.
What's
Here's
up,
what
Rob?
we'll do, gentlemen. I loved the discussion and I love the back and forth. It's definitely got a very good new debate written all over it. And I'm happy to put that together and find a prompt between the two of you that you agree on. But the panel wants to have their time with you now, and they have been sitting back there for probably an hour waiting for it patiently.
I
So-
listen. I apologize,
Give
Sarah.
me just 1 sec, guys. I got to go take my restless leg meds.
No
I'll be right
problem.
back.
And
That's fine.
it was
Good
great to meet you too, Christopher. Look, no
I'll be
problem.
right back.
I understand the debate doesn't end until the debate ends, and sometimes I can be very impositional. I get that, but thank you for humoring me. I appreciate that. To everybody who was waiting backstage, please give me a little bit of grace. It's a brutal field that I'm in, but I did the best I could.
It's fine.
Bet your
I don't
bills were
mind
great
it, but I think
I had a
think
whole
you
lot more
owe-
malice like 30 seconds ago.
I think the
Flow
apology
Stay, fuck you.
goes-
You know you
I
love my
think,
raids, Flow Stay. You
gentlemen,
know you love the
my
raids.
rule. I think the apology
Been a
goes to
minute.
all of the kind people who sent in the super chats that I did not get to because we got stuck in a loop. So my deepest apologies to anyone who sent super chats. I'm going to try to finish getting through them throughout the evening. It's going to take me some time, but we will do it. And I will constantly have to interrupt the panel in order to do so, but we will make it through. But I do want to give this one a shout out because it was the Big 50.
Canadian.
Spyro says there is scientific data proving people are having more meaningful, deeper, and lasting relationships, romantic and otherwise, with AI. You can pass on knowledge to AI, raise it, so to speak, etc. Why should humans reproduce if this is very likely true?
So I'm going to give a caveat here. Spyro is actually brilliant. He's like one of these fuckers who's like, 150 IQ plus. And I often actually have a hard time engaging with him because he's that smart. But here's what I'll say. The rest of the panel, you're all going to fail even more miserably than me. So I'll just put that caveat in, except Rob Knorr. He's smarter than me. But the rest of you fuckers, you're not fucking smarter than me, and you ain't gonna engage with this shit worth a shit. I guarantee it. But I'm willing to give the floor to everybody.
And before I give the floor to anybody and everybody, just so the audience knows, we like to play this fun booting game here. Andrew, Christopher, and Marte cannot be booted from the panel. However, anybody else can be. And I do have backstage.
Hey, Sarah, she got balls? You got balls, Sarah? Let's say Andrew can be booted, but let's set it at $500 fucking dollars. $500, Andrew gets booted. That seems fair.
If you are willing to play that game, I'm happy to oblige. However, usually I protect the main panelists because out of respect, you guys gave your time for the
Let's see what
evening.
happens. Let's see what
But if
happens.
you're
$500
open
fucking
to
dollars, you kick Andrew.
$500 to boot. However, you can also pay to revive. You have to match the boot. So that is the portion of it. Backstage, I have Brick, Evan, Matagi, and Daniel McCoy waiting patiently. If you want to see any of them up, you have to boot somebody down. Otherwise, the panel stays as it is. People come and go as they please. Okay, I am going to turn it over. Fatty, I'm going to lead with you since you were first here. Go for it.
How are you guys doing?
You and your spatula.
Yes. So I'm a little bit confused because every time I talk with y'all accuse secular people of not having a concrete worldview or where their morals come from. Is always subjective. And y'all worldview, because you guys are religious, is objective, right?
No, actually, it would be the opposite.
No,
So-
your worldview will be objective,
No,
right?
no. I would just. So I think you have this backwards. I'm just kind of willing to grant the secular position and say that I'm the arbiter of all morality.
No, but I don't want you to object it. I want you to do the intern critiquing that you usually do, right?
Oh,
If
sure.
you-
Yeah, you can internally
yeah.
critique me.
Yeah. Because I learned.
But hang on, Fatty. Before we get to the internal critique, is it fair to say that if somebody claims they are the arbiter of all morality, that it's fair for me to also be the arbiter of all morality?
No, because that's not your worldview.
Yeah, but here's the thing: it's their
You-
worldview, right?
No, but that's your worldview. You claim that
Yeah, but it's
your morality is objective.
their
No,
worldview,
no.
right?
You can match it and say if Fatty says is right
You
because
mean
it's his
grant it?
opinion.
Hang on, Fatty. Here's the question I'm asking: if I grant the worldview that you're the arbiter of all morality,
Yes.
can't I put myself as the arbiter of all morality by
No.
your own world? I can't.
No, because you accuse me of not knowing where my morals comes from because I'm an atheist secular. And yeah, Fatty doesn't
No,
have no worldview.
actually, I'm more than willing to
No,
hear.
I know. So
Hang on, Fatty. I'm just responding. I'm
Yes.
more than willing to hear where your morals come from. If your morals
I
come
don't have-
from, hang on,
I don't have no morals.
Fatty. I'm just willing to grant Christianity is totally false, and the arbiter of all
I
morality
don't
is
believe in that.
Okay, but hang on.
I don't have no
Fatty,
worldviews because I'm a degenerate. If I'm the
Okay.
king of the world, I will do whatever the fuck I want.
Okay,
Now-
great. Me too.
So now that you can go on offense, right? We're going to do an internal critique of what you believe in. You
Okay.
say you yourself, right, that your morals come from the Bible, right? That's what you say. You
No.
and most of the people on the panel that
No,
are religious.
that's incorrect.
It comes from God. It comes from Christianity. Is that fair?
That's
Sir, hold on
from
to Fatty a second. I'm
Christianity.
hitting
Yes.
you.
Would that fair that the 10 Commandments are something that guide things that you believe in life?
Yes, as long as they reconcile with the new covenant.
So if thou shalt not murder,
Murder.
thou shalt not steal, you shouldn't covet what is of your neighbor.
Yeah, what do those things mean?
By invading the land by force and murdering people for greed and taking the land and covet what is not yours, wouldn't that go against your worldview since your Bible or your God says that you shouldn't do that?
Yeah, this is an excellent point. All you have to do is demonstrate it.
When you were talking with them and you says, what stops me from going to invading them, grabbing a bunch of babies and doing a word that I don't understand because
And I caveated this with,
Yes.
in my worldview, I can tell you why I would say this was wrong. Can you from your worldview?
I don't have no worldview. I'm a secular, degenerate king
You're
of
right.
the world. I do whatever I want.
So if you have no worldview, why should I even engage with mine?
Because my rules are no. You guys actually put that on me. I don't believe in nothing because I don't know where my morals are.
Okay, neither do
right
I.
Or wrong, right
You're
or
right.
wrong is whatever. You actually believe in what's right or wrong. So instead of
Hey,
deflecting,
Fatty, you've
Andrew,
changed my mind. I am the arbiter of all that is moral.
but it's not because you don't believe in that.
Well,
Welcome
wait a
to
second.
degeneracy.
Wait a second.
And you know what? Thank you very much, Rob,
I'm
for
super
actually teaching me what debate is. You
Wait.
are not going to be. You are
I'm
not going to
super-
be on offense. You are not going to be on offense and actually use it against me. We're doing
Okay.
an internal critique
Okay,
of what Andrew
that's
Wilson
fair.
believes.
Do an
Andrew
internal
Wilson, one
critique.
second, Andrew, would you believe and can you concede that if I invade another person's land for greed and I murder them, it goes against your beliefs that murder is wrong? Does
No.
it goes against your beliefs? No?
No.
Explain that to me.
Well, it depends on the context.
Let's go with the British and the natives, which is greed. Was not for survival, was for greed. They went
No.
to the side of the. Yes, he was.
Okay, give me the example.
They could survive in Great Britain, and actually they were thriving. They decided to go ahead and to pillage, kill, and murder because
That's
they
not an
were
example.
greedy.
That's just you asserting. Give me the specific example.
The example is I am going to kill the next tribe because I want their resources. And I
Yeah,
want
where's
water
the
to go.
specific example?
It's colonization. Is a
That's
good
not an
example.
example. That's just an
Imperialism.
assertion. Give me the specific example, and I'll
How
speak
is
to
that,
it.
how is that not a good example?
Because okay,
He's
hang
asking
on.
for a tribe. Let me give you one that I want.
Did you just asked me a question? Can I answer it? No, I can't answer it.
Let me give you one that I know. Let me give you one that I know.
Okay.
Portugal was one of the most powerful countries in the planet. They grabbed
Wait, hang on. Back up. Which country?
Portugal.
Okay,
Right?
Portugal.
They grabbed a bunch of slaves in Africa. They took them to Brazil. they murder a bunch of natives, and so they can take their gold and the can of sugar, so that they can bring it to Portugal, right?
Yeah, demonstrate it.
Yes. Out demonstrated how?
Well,
do you
show me
mean?
the historical facts, and then we'll go over them.
So, Andrew, are you serious?
Yes.
So this is a deflection.
No, it's not a deflection. It's just me asking you to go over the historical facts, and we can demonstrate if it's true or false.
So
and
you
let
are
me interrupt. $5 more has to be dropped in because Hector booted you. Daniel only saved you with a 5.
I got you.
So okay, thank you. All right, you can stay, Fatty. Oh nope, Daniel
Yes.
got it.
and,
Daniel got
and,
it.
If I can, I do have to step off real quickly. I just have one question, and that's it. I'm not gonna do a long speech or anything. Patty, can I ask that question?
no, you can. And this is why I say that Andrew Wilson is the best debater in this space, but he's the biggest deflector too. Because
What did I deflect on?
Because as soon as you get caught on your worldview, you are trying to do what you did with Christopher, which is go to very minutia, proving that the Portuguese were greedy and invaded the Brazil. So they no, we know that European colonies murder other people on other spaces for greed because they wanted their
Well,
resources
hang on,
and they
hang on.
wanted to take it back. Why don't you understand?
Fatty, I'm willing to get into all of this, but you have to understand what claims are. Fatty's claim is, Andrew, will you denounce X thing based on X immoral thing that X people did? I think that that's a fair claim, Fatty.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it not fair for me to ask you to demonstrate that that claim is actually true, rather than just asking me to denounce it based on zero evidence? I'm willing to engage with your evidence. Just show me the evidence.
So the example that I gave you from Portugal going to Brazil and killing, taking resources and sending them back home, is that not considered murder? Like, what would you need for me to actually tell you, for me to prove it?
Just give me a demonstration from a historical concept a historical context
Yes.
from a source, so I can go through the source and determine if it's true or not.
Okay, so let me give you one that you probably know.
Okay.
The United States, or whatever it was called at the time, fighting Mexico to acquire land from the Texas and the South. Would that be fair?
I disagree that that's a correct characterization.
That's not the correct characterization?
Yeah, let's get into the reasons why that war happened, and then we can make a broader determination. So, why did this war happen?
No, go ahead. You said that you disagree.
No, you made the claim.
No, Andrew, I have ChatGPT.
You're not making claims.
I made claims and you deny the claims. And then when I say you explain, you do what you did with Destiny.
No, I didn't even deny
explain to
it.
me with the insurrection. I disagree
Yes.
with your definition. Of
I don't
insurrection.
understand.
So what is your
Fatty,
definition?
Fatty,
I don't know.
Fatty.
You prove it.
Fatty, you're saying that this was immoral by my worldview. I'm willing
Yes.
to concede that that's true.
Yes.
Just demonstrate it.
I will ask you a question, since you like to ask questions to people.
Yes.
Is it fair to say that the people that came from the United Kingdom and killed the natives, is that fair to say that that was murder?
No, not unless
No?
you can demonstrate how it was murder.
Because it was no self-defense, it was no
Okay, then I'm
justification.
waiting
It was
for
no cause.
I'm waiting for the demonstration.
Patty, if I may, like the example you gave that I know more is the U.S.-Mexican War, but this was a territorial dispute. Texas claimed independence from Mexico, and then the United States annexed it. Then there was a dispute about what the border is. The reason that Andrew's asking for specific examples is because the one example you get is very controversial. It's not so simple as the greedy United States went in there murdering people. So he's asking for an example. I'm sure that both me and Andrew would agree these hypotheticals you're talking about exist in some faction.
Sure.
Give us the specifics. So
Yeah,
we
give
can
us the
understand.
specifics.
No.
I really want to just ask one question to Andrew. Patty, give me a moment,
Hold
please.
on, Daniel,
That's
hold
just-
on.
I just want to ask one question and I'm out.
No, I want.
Please.
I'm
I'm on your side,
Hold
Patty.
the
One question
fuck
that's going to
up,
help us.
Ditso. Stop it.
Sorry.
Fatty had the floor. I specifically gave him the floor first. You can
Yes,
calm
ma'am.
your ass down and cool your tits. Fatty, if you want.
Don't let him do you like that, Ditso.
Your kid tits are very hot.
She's the queen of the floor.
The game that Rob and Andrew are playing And again, once again, thank you very much, Rob, for teaching me what debate is about. Not being right, is about not contradicting yourself. The game is putting the onus of proof once again on Fatty, right? The reality is this. If you are going to say that what the British did to the natives is not murder, you have to explain why do you disagree that is not murder. Those are the rules of the game. So Andrew and Rob, since you disagree, you are not going to destiny me. You are not going to say, I disagree with the fact that the 6th of January is an insurrection. And then when I ask you what is an insurrection, you say, I don't know. You have to define it. So y'all are going to explain to me, why am I wrong by saying that the British, what they did to the natives was not murder? Please explain to me what it is.
Well, so I think that this is a fair criticism to ask me, hey, Andrew, what do you think murder is? If you want me to pull up the definition of murder from Christian ethics, I can do that. My question to you, though, and this is simple, I'm willing to engage in everything you're saying. But remember, Fatty, do you agree with me you're making a claim?
No.
You're not making a claim.
Doing an internal
okay, well, then hang on. Fatty, hang on, Fatty. If that's the case and you're not making a claim, then I just don't care.
So you are going to just not say, so you can concede that you are going against your.
If you're not, are you making the claim I'm going against my own worldview?
Okay, so
hang on, Fatty? Are you making the?
No, it's fine. It's fine. Since I have ChatGPT, we're going to go one by one. Key examples of murder and massacres: Trail of Tears, 1830s, ordered by President Andrew Jackson. Over 60,000 Native Americans were forcibly moved from their native lands. Thousands died from starvation, disease, and exhaustion.
How many thousands?
60,000. We can go to San
60,000 didn't die. 60,000 didn't die from the Trail of Tears. That's absurd.
Not totally fine. You can discuss the number. Might be one. Colorado Territory Militia.
Okay, so it's one.
No, there's more. I can go.
But I thought you said it doesn't matter. All that matters is that there's one.
You are extremely intelligent, but now you're playing dumb because you don't want.
I'm not playing dumb. I'm just listening to what you're saying.
You don't want to move the conversation.
Fatty, listen. I'm willing to engage in everything you say in good faith.
Yes.
But just remember that you're saying it.
Yes.
So if it is the case that you're doing an internal critique and you have some internal criticisms of my position, you need to bring up the position and then tell me what the criticism is. What you can't do, hang on. What you can't do is assert from your position X is wrong or X is right, and then expect that I'm going to have. That's not an internal criticism. That's an external criticism. So which do you want to do? An internal critique or an external critique?
No. I'm talking about your worldview.
My worldview. So what are you asking me about my worldview first?
Yes. No. I know what it is. Didn't you?
Well, if you know what it is, then tell me what it is.
No, I ask you, do the 10 commandments have a role on your worldview and where you get morals? Didn't you say yes?
Yes.
Okay, and then we move on. There's
but hang on.
One second.
Fatty, hang on, bro. I'm engaging with you in good faith.
No, you're not.
Wait, how am I not?
Because you are stalemating the conversation.
How?
On prove the murder, and then when I give you a list of murders, you went back.
Fatty, when you say a word, do you agree with me that that word could have a different connotation, or it could
murder? No.
Stop, bro. Just let me.
No.
Yeah, but let me finish asking it before you answer it. Is it the case that you and I could have a different distinction of what murder is? For instance, you agree with me that there's many people who would say if somebody tried to steal my property and I shot them, that would be murder, even though you and I may disagree that that's murder. So if you're going to hold me to a standard, make sure you're holding me to my own standard and ask me, what is the definition of murder? Why is that the definition? And then you can give me the criticism based on my own definition. But what you can't do is say, externally, I believe this is murder, and so that's your standard. That's not my fucking standard, dude.
Okay, so what is your standard?
There we go. So there's the first fucking question. Murder would be an unjustified killing from a biblical sense. Unjustified from a biblical sense.
Yes. Would greed cover that? If I want to steal something because I want gold, I want resources, would that be considered murder, or is justifiable?
So when you say greed,
Yes.
And again,
Greed
I'm
means
just
I'll
hang on,
clarify.
Fatty. I'm not asking you
I'm
what
not
greed means.
starving.
I'm not
Yes,
asking
go
you.
ahead. I'm saying I'm not starving. I don't
You
need
have-
it.
And I will say you have 30 seconds to finish, Fatty, before I have to boot you, and unless somebody matches the 30.
Yes, please. And by the way, it's kind of interesting that as soon as people are on the road,
Oh,
y'all bring
never
the money
mind.
up.
Nobody's
You
on
are
the fucking
safe.
ropes, Fatty.
Thank you very much, Ali. No, you are actually on the ropes.
How?
You're safe.
So is it fair to say once again
Mm-hmm.
that if I'm able to survive, I'm not on a survival position where I need the loaf of bread or something to get from you so I can live. If I'm doing it out of greed, meaning I'm doing just to accommodate, to get more power, more resources. If I go to your tribe and I steal from, and I kill the people there to get your resources, would that be fair to say that that's murder?
No.
Why?
Well, because this would be this would be the distinction of greed.
Mm-hmm.
So, when you say, "Is it the case that I'm killing you only to juxtapose that I want something that you have?" Right? Is that what we're considering greed to be?
Means that it's something that is yours that I clearly don't need.
No, that's not the case. I'm asking you this: if we're defining greed, does greed just mean it's something that I want and I'm willing to do X thing for?
No.
Okay, well then what does greed mean?
Means that I'm taking something from you that I don't need for my survival.
Okay. So then if it is the case that you take anything from anybody else that you don't need for your direct survival, that is greed?
No, it depends.
Well, okay. Well, then you see how we're not getting to anything here, dude.
I only say that because you keep doing the semantics to go back on square one.
No, I'm just trying to make sure that we're clear, dude.
Andrew, I know your game is to catch me on in contradiction.
I'm not even trying to catch you in a contradiction. I'm just trying to, bro. I'm just trying to make sure that we know what we're talking about. When you say greed is X, and then I say okay, and I repeat back to you what X is, and then you say no, greed means Y. That is a fucking contradiction. So just tell me what the fuck you mean.
And hold that thought, Fatty. I want to ask because Christopher is leaving. Is it about 15 minutes?
Yeah, I got a hard out at 10:30.
Okay.
I'm good for
I hate you, Christopher.
I know. I got
only because you have a heart out. That's why I hate you.
Better than hard in.
Because I have a bed to climb into.
That's right. You heard me.
Does anybody specifically have a question for Christopher? And Fatty, I will bring it back to you. I promise. I just want to make sure.
I have a question specifically for Christopher. Christopher, would you like to continue the original debate somewhere else and do a one-on-one?
Man, this could be a fucking email.
I'd like to do that. Yeah,
Let's
that's true also
we can
too.
chat on Instagram about that. I definitely
and I will bow out. It was actually at Marte's. I actually asked Marte to involve me. I wanted to debate with you guys, so just saying.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming in, Andrew. I do. Look, before I go, and Marte, absolutely. Let's chat back and forth, and we can totally either work with Sarah to set that up or do something on some other platform if she's bored of me.
For sure, I'm down to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Can we all agree though that what we just demonstrated is that morality is subjective?
That would be the crux of the argument we were attempting to have, I think, but didn't really.
But that's the stumbling block people kept hitting, right? Because is this greed? Is this murder?
I wonder
subjectivity
if
is baked
into
into
the
the words.
hypotheticals. I'm curious how it would work if we did a hypothetical where we just pretended there is no God and have that debate.
So, Chris, the funny part is that even the Ten Commandments are subjective because it depends on interpretation. Even the Ten Commandments are subjective because I will define murder and somebody will come and say, I don't know what that means, murder. You shall, like thief, like you shall not steal, is a commandment. That's their worldview. That's say,
a word concept fallacy.
No, but that's what they say. They say, this is my worldview. This is why I am moral and you are not, because your worldview is subjective. And then when we stop with still depends. It depends if this is a person or like that shows that he's not objective at all. He's subjective because it depends on the person's interpretation. So we're going to keep going and going and going and going and going on a position where you are going to catch them because it goes against their worldview and their morals, and they are going to try to pretend that murder is not murder, greed is not greed, stealing is not stealing. Like this is
If I say it's bad to kill people, you say define bad.
If I can, Fatty, let me answer your question in a direct way. Even though I think you're a ridiculous debater that thinks things like debate is about being true and not about proving contradictions.
It's about contradicting yourself, Rob. You are as dishonest as everybody else. Thank you very much for teaching me what debate is.
So yeah, Fatty, are you who? Hang on.
Go on.
I want to ask this.
I wanted Rob to finish.
Fatty, can you name for me four
Let's
debaters you consider honest? I just want to know four debaters you consider honest.
Andrew, Rob, can you continue?
Well, he called my friend a dishonest arbiter. I want to know who the honest ones are.
Hold on.
Because I debated him before.
Who are the honest ones, Fatty?
I don't know no honest ones. I don't need to know.
Yeah, you don't need to know because there's no one except you, right, Fatty? You're the only honest fucking debater, right, Fatty?
I'm actually not.
I would like to hear Rob's thought process. He was getting to something, and I want him to finish, please.
I'll be very brief about it, right? Like, Fatty, my understanding, having only seen like the first half hour of this debate, which I apologize for, is to the greater question of, I know, right? Is it immoral to take land by force? It seemed to me, based on Andrew's opening statement, sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. But to say that it is always immoral, which would be the affirmative position, would be incorrect. So given the question you asked, Fatty, even without getting into specifics, I am fully willing to admit that the United States and probably every other government in the world has engaged in immoral uses of force to take land or to do other things in the past. So I'm not sure where the direction of your question's going. It's like some gotcha. You're like, yes, but according to your biblical view,
absolutely.
Let me finish. So not to speak for Andrew's Christianity, but I would bet that even in Andrew's Christianity, that he could come up with hypothetical situations when the United States federal government has engaged in actions he would think it's immoral based on his biblical worldview. So what's the point you're trying to make?
I know that you are the king of the whataboutism, but when Andrew was talking after the initial statement, he literally said, when he was talking to Chris, defensive, taking land on a defensive way. He expanded on that, but if you are coming through the understanding that me invading something because I'm defending myself and is a preemptive attack, what the British did, for example, to the natives was not defensive at all. It was clearly offensive, and it had nothing to do with survival.
I'll grant
to do with greed.
Yeah, I'll grant it.
But that's the point. So you are proving, if you agree that it was not defensive, and these people, did the British came to this side of your side? Because I'm actually
going to give you the best I can possibly give you. The British came here because there were a bunch of fucking Satan-worshipping scumbags who chopped up little Indians for the fun of it because they just thought it was fun. They wanted to cut them up, and then they ate the remains.
That's not true.
But let's just say it was.
But that we don't have to say it was because
I'm just giving you the most like charitable version of your. Oh, okay. You're right. You know what? You're right, Fatty. Then I won't even be charitable.
And you see, you are proving that the debate is not what's right. The debate is about proving.
Actually, no.
So instead of talking about something
Fatty,
that
it is what's right.
Andrew, why do you have to do an hypothetical on something that actually happened? Let me prove to you why didn't they come to decide because of the boogeyman and other religions? Because the British invaded Portugal. They share the same God. They invaded Spain. They share the same God. They invaded France. They share the same God. So it's about greed and it was about gold. It was not about we just invading people because they don't believe on our God. So why do an hypothetical when you clearly have depiction of history of why the British came to decide to prove a contradiction?
Okay.
That's what you do.
Bro, I'll explain. So I'm just trying to grant the most extreme version of the logic to make sure that it adds up. But however, if you say, Andrew, I only want you to engage with this logic, I'm happy to do that too. And I'm waiting for the demonstration that they invaded based on gold and greed.
So I just want to make this sure. You don't think that colonialism, was based on greed, on expansion, on becoming more wealthy, more powerful?
That's correct, yeah.
So why did they do it, Andrew?
Well, I think that if you looked at what the English code was and the French code, make the world French, make the world English, they were trying to export a moral system. But I'm
So
waiting. I'm waiting for you to explain.
so the question will
hang
be-
on, Fatty.
Mhm.
My turn.
Yes.
So, Fatty, I'm waiting for you to express and show me the evidence that this was based on greed.
Because once again, the definition of greed, and I have
Uh-huh.
it right here, and you, for
Okay.
whatever reason, greed is an intense and selfish desire for more than you need, especially money, power, land, or possessions, often at the expenses of others. This literally is colonialism. We
Okay.
don't need
Hang on, Fatty. I'm willing to grant the definition. I'm just waiting for the demonstration.
Wait, what?
I'm
gets to
willing to
define-
grant your definition that that's what greed is, and I'm waiting for you
Yes.
to demonstrate that they were acting in this way.
Okay, so we're going to do a math equation, right? Portugal had 6 million inhabitants at that time. So Portugal is a very,
Which time?
it's a very, very small
Hang
country,
on, which
right?
time?
In the 1500s.
Okay,
right?
1500s against who?
Yes, it's a very powerful country, but a very small country. Can
Okay.
you explain? Can you explain to me why did Portugal went to Africa?
What?
to get-
Hang on, Fatty. These are your claims.
How
I'm
is
waiting
it
for because you're the one claiming it.
I'm going to.
So I'm just
censure
waiting for
upsetting
you
me for
with
just a
your
moment,
claim to
gentlemen.
demonstrate how this was
Gentlemen, if I
greedy
may
according to your
interrupt
standard.
For a moment, please. There are two people who do have a question for Christopher, and he does have a hard stop here shortly. So I would like to grant them the space to do so. I believe Tim, did you have one?
Yeah, so it was interesting. There was like this intersectionality, I guess, that was in your opening statement, Chris, when it came to an intersection of history and theology as an appeal to the moral system that you were arguing. And I think it's curious, how do you, if you wanted to appeal to the morality of the Bible to Christians, how do you get around the fact that there was a mandate for the Jews to conquer Canaan and get rid of the child sacrificing Canaanites? And then what makes that different? What makes that different than the conquistadors coming to Mesoamerica and getting rid of the Aztecs who engaged in human sacrifice, were pagans, and massacred their neighbors? What's the moral distinction between those two things?
I think they would have to be somewhat up to what you understand God's direction to be, or whether you even believe historically that is accurate, because we do know that religion is often used